she's not a mother. Shock revelations expose Meghan Markle's darkest secret about Archie. Lady C has just leaked the adoption records. In an explosive new twist, Lady Colin Campbell has revealed jaw-dropping details about Archie Harrison's true origins. But that's not all. According to these newly surfaced adoption records, Meghan Markle may not be the biological mother she claims to be. And if that wasn't enough, there's a shocking claim that Meghan rejected a critical immunization for her child, putting his health at risk. Why would a mother make such a dangerous choice? This story isn't just about royal deception. It's about the future of Meghan and Harry's empire and the truth behind the carefully crafted public image. Stay tuned, because the scandal goes much deeper than anyone ever imagined. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle and her son Archie Harrison was a carefully constructed illusion? What if the truth, hidden behind layers of secrecy and guarded statements, is far more shocking than anyone could have imagined? The public has long accepted the narrative of Meghan and Harry as the parents of Archie, the little boy who, despite being born into royalty, was also positioned as a symbol of independence and change. But now, startling new claims from none other than Lady Colin Campbell, widely known as Lady C, are shaking the foundations of that story. Lady C, a prominent and outspoken figure in British social circles, has never been one to shy away from controversy. Known for her candid opinions and deep connections within the aristocracy, she has made headlines numerous times for her bold takes on the royal family. But this time, it's different. This time, she's not just commenting on a scandal, she's at the very heart of it. According to Lady C, the public has been deceived. She claims to have uncovered adoption records that suggest Archie Harrison was not born to Meghan Markle, but rather adopted in a process shrouded in secrecy and manipulation. To make matters even more contentious, she claims that Meghan rejected critical medical advice concerning Archie's health, specifically regarding immunizations. But why would someone of Lady C's stature make such explosive allegations? And why now? As we peel back the layers of this unfolding drama, we'll explore the possible motives, the evidence, or lack thereof, and what this could mean not only for Meghan and Harry but for the entire royal family. In this story, the stakes are incredibly high, not just because of the personal implications for Meghan, but because of the broader questions it raises about transparency, royal protocol, and the media's role in shaping public perception. The backdrop to these revelations is a royal family already under immense pressure. In the years since Harry and Meghan stepped back from their official duties, they've been both celebrated and condemned, painted as brave trailblazers by some and self-serving troublemakers by others. Their move to the United States was hailed as an escape from the relentless scrutiny of the British press, a chance to raise their children in peace. Yet, peace has been elusive. Every public statement, every podcast episode, and every interview only seems to add fuel to the fire of speculation and controversy. Now, with Lady C's claims, that fire is once again blazing. Her words have sent shockwaves through both sides of the Atlantic, causing many to question the very fabric of the Sussexes' story. Is there any truth to these allegations, or is this merely another chapter in the saga of rumor and resentment that has followed Meghan since she first entered the royal sphere? To understand the weight of Lady C's accusations, we must first understand the woman herself, a socialite turned author, whose insight into royal affairs comes not just from casual observation but from direct involvement and deep-rooted connections. Lady C's voice carries weight, not just because of her aristocratic background, but because of her history of being right about royal controversies. While some dismiss her as a sensationalist, others recognize that her insider knowledge often proves alarmingly accurate. In her latest bombshell, she claims to have obtained documents that point to a private adoption process involving Archie, hidden from public scrutiny. If this is true, it would mean that one of the most closely guarded aspects of the Sussex narrative, their young son's birth, was orchestrated behind a veil of secrecy. Moreover, Lady C's allegations about Meghan's refusal to immunize Archie add another layer of controversy. While there are parents around the world who question vaccines, the British royal family has historically adhered strictly to public health guidelines. Refusing to vaccinate a child, especially within the royal context, would not only be seen as irresponsible, but could also spark debates about the safety of other members of the family and the general public. But let's pause for a moment and consider the implications. If Lady C's claims are true, why would Meghan Markle go to such lengths to keep an adoption a secret? Some speculate that it may be about maintaining a particular image, the image of a young, modern royal mother breaking away from tradition while still upholding family values. For Meghan, who has faced countless allegations questioning her authenticity, admitting to an adoption might have felt like a crack in that carefully crafted image. But is that enough to warrant such a massive cover-up? Then there's the issue of immunization. Health experts around the world continue to stress the importance of vaccinations in preventing the spread of infectious diseases. For a member of the royal family to reject this could be seen as setting a dangerous precedent, especially given the global audience that follows the Sussexes' every move. Lady C hints that Meghan's decision may have been based not on medical advice, but on personal belief, a stance that would undoubtedly clash with the more traditional, scientifically inclined approach of the royal establishment. Critics argue that Lady C's claims are purely speculative, crafted to garner attention and stir up controversy. Yet, as the story gains traction, more people are asking questions. Was Archie really adopted? Did Meghan truly reject immunizations despite royal advice? And most importantly, why is this coming to light now? Could it be that Lady C has ulterior motives? Or is she genuinely trying to expose a deeply guarded truth? The Sussexes have not directly addressed these new allegations, but their past responses to similar controversies suggest they might respond with a mix of legal threats and public denials. If true, these revelations could not only undermine Meghan's carefully cultivated public image, but also impact the couple's ongoing legal battles concerning privacy and media intrusion. After all, if Lady C's claims hold any merit, it could suggest that Meghan has been misleading the public on one of the most fundamental aspects of her life, her role as a mother. What remains to be seen is whether this story will gain enough traction to warrant a formal response from the Sussexes or the palace itself. Historically, the royal family tends to remain tight-lipped about personal matters, leaving room for speculation to run rampant. But as the public becomes increasingly aware of the potential discrepancies in Meghan's narrative, it might force a more direct confrontation than anyone anticipated. We are only at the beginning of what promises to be an intense, possibly reputation-shattering journey into the heart of royal secrets. As we continue to delve deeper, examining the evidence, the reactions, and the broader implications, we must remember to question every claim, every statement, and every piece of so-called evidence. Because in a story as tangled as this one, the truth may not just be elusive, it may be completely different from what we've been led to believe. Lady Colin Campbell, known to many as Lady C, is no stranger to controversy. A well-established socialite with deep connections in aristocratic circles, Lady C has long been a commentator on the inner workings of the British royal family. Her books have spilled secrets and revealed insights that many in royal circles would rather have kept hidden. But her latest revelation is perhaps the most explosive yet. During a heated interview, Lady C dropped a bombshell that has left both the media and the public reeling. Claims that Archie Harrison, the firstborn child of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, is not biologically theirs. According to Lady C, secret adoption records have been uncovered, and she alleges that Meghan and Harry have been concealing the truth from the public since the very beginning. Lady C, ever the provocateur, made her claims with the kind of confidence that suggests she has seen the evidence firsthand. She described the alleged adoption process as highly secretive, conducted under the strictest confidentiality, with only a handful of insiders aware of the arrangement. Her words painted a picture of a clandestine operation, with whispers of documents sealed far from public view and agreements that would ensure the truth remained hidden. But why would Lady C, who has made a career out of exposing royal secrets, be willing to stake her reputation on such a bold statement? According to her, it's about integrity. She claims the public deserves to know the truth, no matter how shocking or controversial it might be. As Lady C spoke, she didn't mince her words. She detailed how the so-called adoption was allegedly orchestrated to maintain the Sussexes' public image, a young royal couple, defying tradition and raising their family on their own terms. According to her, this image was carefully cultivated, with the idea of motherhood being central to Meghan's brand. But if Lady C's allegations are true, it would mean that this image is nothing more than a well-crafted illusion. The adoption process, she claims, was hidden behind layers of legal protection, ensuring that no whispers of the truth would emerge until now. Lady C went on to reveal that her sources come from deep within the royal establishment, individuals who have been privy to secrets for decades. She described how the adoption was supposedly managed with extreme caution, with Meghan and Harry insisting on privacy above all else. Lady C even hinted that there were financial incentives in place for those who helped keep the secret under wraps. According to her, substantial payments were made to certain individuals to secure their silence, ensuring that not a whisper of the arrangement would leak to the press. Naturally, these allegations have sent shockwaves through both sides of the Atlantic. For years, the public has watched Archie grow up, believing him to be the biological child of Meghan and Harry. His birth was celebrated with international headlines, his christening was shrouded in secrecy, and his occasional appearances have been met with the kind of adoration reserved for royal offspring. But now, Lady C's claims threaten to upend that carefully constructed narrative. The interview continued with Lady C providing what she claims is undeniable proof. She spoke of adoption records that are sealed under heavy protection, shielded from the public eye by both legal and royal intervention. According to Lady C, the documents exist but are guarded fiercely, hidden away in private archives that only a select few can access. She stated that her information comes from sources who have seen the records firsthand, individuals who are now ready to step forward and confirm what she has been saying all along. If these records are indeed real, they would represent a scandal of monumental proportions, one that would call into question not only the narrative surrounding Archie but also the integrity of Meghan and Harry themselves. Lady C was relentless in her pursuit of the truth during the interview. She described how she had been tracking whispers of this secret for months, quietly gathering evidence and speaking to insiders who had grown tired of keeping their silence. According to her, the story had been an open secret among certain circles, discussed in hushed tones and denied at every opportunity. But now, she believes the time has come for the truth to emerge, no matter the consequences. What makes Lady C's claims even more explosive is her assertion that Meghan Markle herself played a direct role in orchestrating the secrecy. According to Lady C, Meghan was insistent that the adoption be kept under wraps, fearing that the truth would damage her carefully maintained public persona. Lady C described how Meghan allegedly took extreme measures to ensure that no one outside of her most trusted circle would ever know the truth. She claims that even those close to Meghan were kept in the dark, with the Duchess going so far as to create an elaborate story surrounding her pregnancy to keep suspicions at bay. Of course, the implications of Lady C's claims are staggering. If Archie was indeed adopted, it would raise countless questions about royal succession, legal standing, and the integrity of the Sussexes. Would Archie still be entitled to royal privileges and protections? Would his place in the line of succession be called into question? And perhaps most critically, what would this mean for Meghan and Harry's credibility moving forward? These are the questions that many are now asking, with speculation running rampant across media outlets and social media platforms alike. Lady C's claims don't stop at the adoption, however. She also alleges that Meghan Markle outright refused to immunize Archie, despite recommendations from both medical professionals and royal advisors. According to Lady C, Meghan's decision to reject immunizations for Archie was met with disbelief and frustration from those within the royal circle. Lady C described how Meghan's stance was seen as not only reckless but a direct violation of royal protocol. For generations, the royal family has adhered to strict medical standards, ensuring that members of the family are protected from preventable diseases. Meghan's decision to go against that tradition, if true, would represent a significant break from royal custom. Lady C went further, suggesting that Meghan's anti-immunization stance was rooted in her personal beliefs rather than medical advice. According to Lady C, Meghan refused to engage with medical professionals on the topic, instead relying on her own instincts. Lady C described how this decision sparked tension within the family, with senior members allegedly expressing concern over Archie's well-being. But Meghan, according to Lady C, remained steadfast, refusing to budge on her decision and insisting that she knew what was best for her child. As Lady C's interview came to a close, she made it clear that this was only the beginning. According to her, more revelations are coming, and she promises that they will be even more explosive than what she has already revealed. For those who have followed the Sussex saga from the beginning, Lady C's claims represent a new chapter. One filled with secrets, controversy, and the potential to reshape everything the public thinks it knows about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Now the world waits to see what will happen next. Will Meghan and Harry respond to Lady C's claims? Will the palace step in to refute or confirm the allegations? Or will the truth remain buried beneath layers of secrecy and royal privilege? One thing is for sure, this story is far from over. And as more pieces of the puzzle begin to emerge, the world will be watching, waiting for the next revelation, the next twist, and the final answer to the question that now lingers in everyone's mind. Who is Archie Harrison, really? Lady Colin Campbell's explosive claims did not just vanish into the air after her interview. They reverberated through media channels and royal commentary forums with unprecedented intensity. For those who have followed the tumultuous journey of Harry and Meghan, this was yet another chapter in a saga that has captivated the world. However, what made this revelation different was not just the audacity of the claim, but the layers of secrecy and manipulation that Lady C suggested were at play. According to her, the adoption process was a tightly controlled operation, shrouded in legal maneuvers and hidden from the prying eyes of the media and the public. To fully grasp the weight of Lady C's claims, one must understand the adoption process within the context of the British monarchy. Adoption in royal circles is not unprecedented, but it is exceedingly rare and almost always shrouded in secrecy. Historically, the idea of adoption challenges the very notion of bloodline purity, a concept that has long been revered within aristocratic traditions. For Lady C to suggest that Archie Harrison was adopted is not merely a question of parentage, but a direct challenge to the age-old principles of royal succession. Lady C did not stop at mere suggestions. She went further, outlining in meticulous detail how the process was allegedly carried out. According to her, the adoption was facilitated through private legal channels, ensuring that no public record would ever surface. This, she claims, was done with the assistance of powerful allies who ensured that every trace of documentation was either sealed or hidden away in secure archives. Lady C even hinted at offshore legal firms being involved, adding another layer of complexity to the already tangled web of secrecy. The interview spiraled deeper as Lady C described what she claimed were highly confidential documents, held under strict legal protection. She stated that these records were sealed so tightly that even seasoned investigative journalists had been unable to unearth them. According to Lady C, these documents are stored not just within British legal systems, but also in international vaults, designed to be inaccessible to any but the most powerful. Her words were chilling. They thought they could hide him in plain sight. But the truth always finds its way to the surface. Speculation ran wild after Lady C's interview. Social media exploded with hashtags, discussions, and heated debates over the legitimacy of her claims. Those who had long been skeptical of Meghan Markle found renewed vigor in Lady C's words, while supporters of the Sussexes brushed off the allegations as yet another baseless attack. The divide was stark and growing. Media outlets scrambled to cover the story, some cautiously towing the line of speculation, while others dove headfirst into accusations of fraud and deception. However, Lady C's revelations were not just about the adoption. She also made waves with her claim that Meghan Markle rejected critical medical advice regarding Archie's immunizations. This allegation sent ripples through the medical community and raised questions about the royal family's adherence to health protocols. Lady C claimed that Meghan's refusal to vaccinate Archie was seen as a direct challenge to royal traditions, which have long adhered to medical best practices to ensure the health and safety of heirs. According to Lady C, Meghan's decision sparked conflict behind palace walls, with senior royals expressing concern over the boys' well-being. The reasons behind Meghan's alleged stance on vaccinations were, according to Lady C, rooted in personal beliefs rather than scientific advice. Lady C painted a picture of Meghan standing her ground, unyielding even in the face of royal disapproval. She described private meetings in which doctors advised immunization, only to be met with resistance from Meghan, who reportedly questioned the necessity and safety of vaccines. Lady C suggested that Meghan's decision was influenced by a growing distrust of traditional medical practices, a viewpoint that clashed dramatically with the palace's long-standing adherence to medical expertise. As the story unfolded, questions began to emerge about how such a decision, if true, could have been kept hidden from the public eye. Immunization schedules are generally documented and shared, especially within royal families where transparency is a necessity to maintain public trust. Yet, Lady C claimed that Meghan and Harry had gone to great lengths to ensure that Archie's medical records were kept strictly confidential. She described an intricate web of legal protections designed to keep prying eyes away, hinting that the couple may have used private clinics and undisclosed medical professionals to maintain secrecy. Naturally, these allegations have raised questions about the potential risks to Archie and those around him. Medical experts have weighed in, expressing concerns that if true, Meghan's decision could have placed not only Archie at risk, but also those who come into contact with him. In the tightly knit circles of royalty, where public engagements and social interactions are frequent, a lack of immunization could potentially expose others to preventable diseases. Lady C emphasized this point, suggesting that Meghan's alleged choice was not merely a personal decision, but one with far-reaching implications. Media outlets scrambled to verify Lady C's claims, but the walls of secrecy surrounding the Sussexes proved formidable. Attempts to acquire medical records or official statements from the Sussexes were met with silence. Buckingham Palace declined to comment, a move that only fueled speculation further. For many, the lack of denial was seen as a tacit acknowledgement that there may be more to the story than meets the eye. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry remained conspicuously silent, neither confirming nor denying Lady C's allegations. Their refusal to address the claims left a vacuum of information, one that was rapidly filled with rumor, speculation, and mounting distrust. Despite the silence from Meghan and Harry, Lady C did not back down. In follow-up interviews, she doubled down on her assertions, claiming that she had more evidence yet to be revealed. According to her, this evidence would not only confirm Archie's adoption but also expose a broader network of secrecy and manipulation orchestrated by Meghan Markle herself. Lady C promised that more would be revealed in the coming weeks, hinting that additional documents and testimonies were being prepared for release. Public opinion continued to polarize as more details emerged. Social media became a battleground of conflicting views, with hashtags trending across platforms. Supporters of the Sussexes dismissed Lady C's claims as mere gossip, a desperate attempt to stir controversy and sell books. Yet, others saw it as confirmation of what they had suspected for years, that Meghan and Harry had constructed a facade, one that was now beginning to crack under the weight of Lady C's allegations. Journalists and royal commentators began to dig deeper, searching for any clue that might validate Lady C's claims. Archived interviews were rewatched, public statements re-examined, and timelines scrutinized for inconsistencies. Some pointed to the mystery surrounding Archie's birth certificate and christening, both of which had been shrouded in secrecy and deviation from royal tradition. Others noted that Meghan had opted out of the traditional post-birth photo outside the hospital, a move that was considered highly unusual and uncharacteristic of royal births. Lady C's assertions, if true, threatened to unravel much of the narrative Meghan and Harry have carefully constructed since stepping away from royal duties. Their image as devoted parents and advocates for privacy is now under a microscope, with many questioning whether their plea for privacy was less about protection and more about concealment. Lady C's allegations have not only reignited scrutiny of Meghan and Harry's private lives, but have also cast a shadow over their claims of transparency and authenticity. The world now waits with bated breath for the next development in this unfolding drama. Will Lady C provide the proof she promises? Will Meghan and Harry finally break their silence to refute the claims? And if these allegations are substantiated, what will it mean for the future of Archie Harrison and his place in the royal lineage? These are the questions that hang in the balance as the story continues to develop, inching closer to either revelation or resolution. One thing is certain, this is far from over. As Lady Colin Campbell's explosive revelations continued to ripple through media channels, questions about the legitimacy of Archie Harrison's birth only grew louder. It wasn't just Lady C's claims that fueled the fire. Evidence began to surface that cast further doubt on the official narrative presented by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. For the first time since Archie's birth, people began to scrutinize the timeline, the announcements, and the peculiar secrecy that surrounded his early days. Traditionally, royal births are a matter of public celebration and transparency. From the moment an heir is born, the news is swiftly announced to the public, accompanied by photographs of the royal parents standing outside the hospital, beaming with joy. But with Archie, things were markedly different. Meghan and Harry had announced that they would not be following the standard royal birth protocol. There would be no pictures on the hospital steps, no immediate press conference, and no reveal of the attending doctors. Instead, Meghan and Harry opted for what they described as a private family moment, an unusual break from royal tradition that sparked whispers among royal commentators and fueled speculation. The timeline itself was odd. Reports of Meghan going into labor were contradictory, with some claiming she had already given birth hours before it was officially announced. Even the place of Archie's birth was shrouded in confusion. Initially, it was reported that Meghan had given birth at home, but later it was confirmed that Archie was born at Portland Hospital in London, a private medical facility known for its high level of privacy and discretion. Despite this, there were no leaked photos, no medical staff testimonies, and most surprisingly, no witnesses. In a city where paparazzi swarm for even the smallest royal event, the complete absence of photographs was not just unusual, it was unprecedented. Lady C seized upon these inconsistencies during her interview, pointing out that the lack of transparency was not just peculiar but deliberate. According to her, the decision to avoid the hospital steps was part of a broader strategy to hide the adoption process. Lady C alleged that Meghan's pregnancy was carefully staged, with the birth announcement timed to align with the adoption's finalization. If true, it would mean that while the world celebrated the arrival of Archie Harrison, the legal paperwork was being quietly signed behind closed doors. The secrecy surrounding Archie's christening added further fuel to the fire. Royal christenings are typically public events, designed to celebrate the new member of the family while maintaining the monarchy's connection with the public. Historically, these ceremonies are open to the press, and official photographs are released shortly after. Yet, Archie's christening was held in private, with a strict no-media policy. Only a handful of photographs were released, and they were tightly controlled, showing only the faces Meghan and Harry wanted the world to see. Even the names of his godparents were kept secret, a break from royal tradition that had many questioning why Meghan and Harry seemed so desperate to keep details of Archie's life under wraps. Lady C suggested that the private christening was more than just a demand for privacy. It was a strategic decision to prevent public scrutiny. According to her, if the truth about Archie's adoption were ever to come out, the photos and documents from that day would not align with the official narrative. Lady C claimed that the godparents, carefully selected by Meghan and Harry, were part of the inner circle that helped keep the secret hidden. Their names were withheld to prevent journalists from asking questions or uncovering connections that could unravel the tightly woven story. What Lady C said next would ignite a firestorm of debate. She claimed that her sources had seen documents that confirmed Archie Harrison's legal status as an adopted child. She described these documents as being held under tight legal protection, accessible only to those with significant influence and power. Lady C asserted that Meghan and Harry had used their connections to ensure that the records were sealed, protected from freedom of information requests and journalistic inquiry. According to her, the adoption was handled through private legal channels in the United States, ensuring that British law had no jurisdiction over its disclosure. Naturally, these claims were met with fierce opposition from Meghan's supporters, who dismissed Lady C's allegations as baseless and rooted in malice. Social media platforms erupted with debates, with hashtags trending worldwide as people argued over the legitimacy of Lady C's statements. Supporters of Meghan and Harry labeled the claims as yet another targeted attack, part of a long-standing campaign to discredit the Duchess. Critics, however, saw it as a moment of truth, a crack in the facade that Meghan had carefully maintained since her entry into royal life. Amid the chaos, Buckingham Palace remained silent. Their refusal to comment on Lady C's allegations only deepened the mystery. Historically, the palace has chosen silence over confrontation when it comes to scandals, operating under the belief that acknowledging rumors only gives them more weight. Yet, this time, the silence was deafening. For those who believed Lady C, the palace's silence was seen as an implicit acknowledgement that there was truth to her claims. For Meghan's supporters, it was viewed as dignified restraint in the face of slander. But it wasn't just the palace that was silent. Meghan and Harry themselves offered no public statement addressing the rumors. Their media representatives declined to comment, and their usually active social media accounts were eerily quiet. For many, this was out of character. Meghan, who had always been vocal about defending her family and her privacy, now remained uncharacteristically muted. To some, this was evidence of guilt. To others, it was simply a decision not to engage with baseless gossip. The silence, however, did not stop the speculation. Journalists and investigators began digging deeper into the adoption rumors, looking for any crack in the Sussexes' story. Questions were raised about the timeline of Meghan's pregnancy, her appearances during her term, and the way Archie was introduced to the world. Royal watchers began to re-examine old photographs, searching for inconsistencies that might support Lady C's claims. Some pointed out that Meghan's baby bump seemed to fluctuate in size, while others highlighted her unusual choice to skip the traditional post-birth photograph. Lady C continued to stoke the flames of controversy, giving follow-up interviews and doubling down on her allegations. According to her, the real story was yet to be told, and she hinted that more revelations were coming. She claimed that additional documents would soon surface, documents that would not only confirm Archie's adoption but would also expose a network of secrecy involving high-profile figures within the royal family and beyond. For those watching from the sidelines, the saga was far from over. Lady C's boldness had created a fracture in the carefully maintained narrative of the Sussexes, a fracture that now threatened to grow into a full-blown scandal. Media outlets began to position themselves, preparing for what many believed would be the next big royal revelation. Meanwhile, supporters and critics of Meghan and Harry dug in their heels, ready for the impending battle of words and evidence. The world was watching, waiting for the next move. Would Meghan and Harry finally break their silence? Would the palace step in to defend them? Or would Lady C produce the evidence she promised, shattering the image that Meghan and Harry had painstakingly built? For now, all anyone could do was wait, knowing that the truth, whatever it might be, was bound to surface eventually. The media frenzy sparked by Lady Colin Campbell's interview did not die down in the days that followed. Instead, it grew stronger, fueled by speculation, whispers of insider knowledge, and unrelenting public curiosity. News outlets across the globe picked up the story, dissecting every word Lady C had spoken, every insinuation she had made, and every allegation she had laid out against Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. The idea that Archie Harrison might have been adopted, and that the truth had been concealed from the public eye, was simply too explosive to ignore. Journalists began revisiting the events surrounding Archie's birth, analyzing every detail with the sharp eyes of investigators. Questions that had once seemed minor now took on new significance. For instance, many pointed out how Meghan's pregnancy had always been shrouded in a level of secrecy that defied royal tradition. When Kate Middleton and Princess Diana had given birth, the world had been treated to hospital steps photographs within hours of delivery, showcasing mother and child to the eager public. But with Meghan, there were no such photos. In fact, the announcement of her going into labor and the announcement of Archie's birth had been so close together that it raised eyebrows even back then. Some questioned if Meghan had truly given birth or if the timeline had been manipulated to fit a different narrative. Lady C capitalized on these inconsistencies during her follow-up interviews, insisting that the secrecy around Archie's birth was not about privacy, but about concealment. According to her, the entire process had been orchestrated to mask the truth. That Archie Harrison was adopted in a secretive legal arrangement that left no trace in the United Kingdom. Lady C went as far as to claim that the birth certificate had been altered to reflect a fabricated narrative, ensuring that the public would never question the child's origin. She alleged that the decision to keep Archie's godparents a secret was also tied to this cover-up, preventing anyone from connecting the dots between the adoption process and those within the royal circle who knew the truth. The whispers grew louder when independent researchers began digging into Archie's official documentation. Journalists scoured public records, attempting to unearth any discrepancies that might validate Lady C's claims. Although no concrete evidence emerged at first, what had become apparent was the extraordinary level of privacy that surrounded Archie's early life. His christening, traditionally a public affair, had been held behind closed doors. The names of his godparents were kept under wraps, a break from royal protocol that had always dictated transparency in these matters. Buckingham Palace, for its part, maintained its silence, neither confirming nor denying Lady C's allegations. Lady C herself, undeterred by the backlash from Meghan's supporters, continued to push the narrative. She claimed to have insiders willing to testify to the adoption, people who had been part of the process and were ready to come forward with the truth. According to her, these insiders had stayed silent for years, bound by legal agreements and financial incentives that ensured their cooperation. But now, Lady C hinted, the tide was turning. She spoke confidently of whistleblowers who were prepared to reveal everything: names, dates, locations, and even the lawyers who handled the process. Meanwhile, public opinion was becoming increasingly polarized. Supporters of Meghan and Harry dismissed Lady C's claims as nothing more than desperate attention-seeking. They pointed to Lady C's history of controversy, suggesting that she was merely trying to sell more books and maintain her relevance in royal gossip circles. On the other hand, critics of Meghan and Harry seized upon the allegations as confirmation of long-held suspicions. Online forums buzzed with conspiracy theories and debates about the legitimacy of Archie's birth. Some went so far as to claim that Meghan's well-documented struggle with the press was rooted not in media intrusion, but in a desperate attempt to control a narrative that was always on the verge of unraveling. Amidst the chaos, a small but vocal group of investigative journalists began probing the legal frameworks surrounding adoptions in both the United States and the United Kingdom. They examined whether it would be possible for a royal family member to adopt without it becoming public knowledge. What they found was interesting. Adoption laws in California, where Meghan and Harry now reside, allow for substantial privacy protections. In some cases, adoption records can be sealed indefinitely if it is determined to be in the best interest of the child or the adoptive parents. This discovery only added fuel to the fire, as critics speculated that Meghan and Harry had utilized American legal protections to conceal Archie's true origins. Lady C, aware of the growing momentum her claims had generated, promised that more revelations were on the way. She hinted that documents would soon be made public, documents that would allegedly prove that Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was indeed adopted through a confidential legal process. According to Lady C, these documents had been kept hidden due to ironclad legal agreements, but she insisted that whistleblowers were preparing to break their silence. "The truth always comes out in the end," she said in a follow-up interview, her voice dripping with confidence. Buckingham Palace continued its policy of silence, neither confirming nor denying Lady C's allegations. But behind the scenes, sources hinted at growing tension. There were whispers of crisis meetings, of senior royals expressing frustration over the constant scandals surrounding Meghan and Harry. For the first time, even longtime supporters within the aristocracy began to distance themselves from the couple, wary of the potential fallout if Lady C's claims proved true. According to insiders, there was fear that the royal family's reputation, already bruised by previous controversies, would be irreparably damaged if it were revealed that Meghan and Harry had orchestrated such a monumental deception. Meghan and Harry themselves remained tight-lipped. Their representatives declined all requests for comment, and their public appearances were noticeably reduced in the weeks following Lady C's bombshell interview. This silence did little to quell the rumors. If anything, it only stoked them, with critics arguing that an innocent family would have immediately refuted such outrageous claims. Their silence was interpreted by many as an admission of guilt, a strategic decision to wait out the storm rather than confront it head-on. But Lady C was not content with silence. She continued to appear on talk shows, podcasts, and online forums, detailing her version of events with increasing specificity. She spoke of private meetings with royal aides, confidential conversations with legal experts, and even hinted that Meghan's refusal to vaccinate Archie was part of a broader effort to maintain control over the narrative. According to Lady C, Meghan's insistence on avoiding public health protocols was less about personal belief and more about avoiding public appearances that might reveal inconsistencies in Archie's story. The accusations only grew bolder. Lady C went on to allege that Meghan had orchestrated a web of secrecy around Archie's medical care, choosing private practitioners bound by non-disclosure agreements to prevent leaks to the press. She claimed that even routine doctor visits were conducted under strict confidentiality, with legal barriers erected to prevent medical staff from discussing Archie's health with anyone outside the immediate family. If true, these measures would indicate an extraordinary level of secrecy, one that even the most private royal family members had never sought to achieve. Public curiosity only intensified. Investigative journalists continued to dig, bloggers wrote exposés, and social media was set ablaze with theories and accusations. The silence from Meghan and Harry became deafening, a void that was filled with speculation and rumor. All the while, Lady C's promises of more evidence hung in the air, teasing the public with the anticipation of yet another revelation that could shatter the Sussexes' carefully curated image. Would Lady C follow through with her promises? Would documents surface to validate her claims? Or would this become yet another royal scandal that fades with time, unresolved and unconfirmed? As the world waited for the next development, the stakes grew higher, and the questions grew louder. The truth, whatever it was, seemed poised to explode into public view, with repercussions that could reach far beyond Meghan and Harry, shaking the very foundations of the royal family itself. As the allegations continued to swirl, the public's appetite for answers grew insatiable. Social media platforms buzzed with endless speculation. News outlets dedicated entire segments to dissecting Lady Colin Campbell's claims, and royal commentators weighed in with their own perspectives. Some argued that Lady C's allegations were nothing more than a desperate bid for attention, while others pointed to her track record of unearthing hidden royal secrets as evidence that her words should not be dismissed so easily. For Lady C, the controversy only seemed to fuel her determination to bring the truth to light. With each passing day, Lady C appeared more emboldened. She began granting exclusive interviews to well-known media outlets, repeating her claims, and even going into more detail about the supposed adoption of Archie Harrison. According to her, the adoption process had been orchestrated with military precision. Lawyers, royal aides, and even medical professionals were allegedly sworn to secrecy, bound by ironclad non-disclosure agreements that threatened severe financial penalties for any breach. Lady C claimed that the Sussexes had gone to extraordinary lengths to protect this secret, using not only legal measures but also personal influence to keep prying eyes away from the truth. In one particularly shocking interview, Lady C described the extent of what she called a web of silence. According to her, the Sussexes had enlisted the help of high-powered legal firms with connections both in the United Kingdom and the United States. These firms, she claimed, were experts in sealing records, ensuring that no adoption documents would ever see the light of day. Lady C alleged that even the doctors who handled Meghan's care during her supposed pregnancy were instructed to remain silent or face legal action. For many, this level of secrecy seemed implausible, but Lady C remained firm in her assertions, promising that more revelations were on the way. As Lady C's narrative gained momentum, the scrutiny over Archie's birth only intensified. Journalists began digging deeper into the events surrounding Meghan's pregnancy, questioning every public appearance and every carefully orchestrated photo opportunity. One of the most glaring inconsistencies, according to Lady C, was the absence of traditional hospital photos. For decades, royal mothers had stepped outside the hospital just hours after giving birth, posing for photographs with their newborns. Princess Diana had done it. Kate Middleton had done it multiple times. Yet, Meghan and Harry opted for something entirely different. No hospital steps, no immediate public viewing, just a carefully staged photo op days later. Lady C pointed to this deviation from tradition as evidence of a cover-up. According to her, Meghan's decision to forego the traditional photos was not just a matter of privacy, it was a necessity. She claimed that Meghan's absence from the hospital steps was orchestrated to hide the fact that Archie had not been born to her, but was instead adopted through a private legal process. This, Lady C said, was why Meghan's pregnancy was shrouded in such secrecy. It wasn't about avoiding public scrutiny, it was about avoiding exposure. The allegations didn't stop there. Lady C went on to claim that Meghan's refusal to vaccinate Archie was part of a broader attempt to maintain secrecy around his medical history. According to Lady C, Meghan was advised by medical professionals to follow standard immunization procedures, but she refused. This decision, Lady C alleged, was less about Meghan's personal beliefs and more about preventing Archie from being subjected to medical scrutiny that could expose the truth about his origins. By keeping him out of typical medical checkups and vaccinations, Meghan and Harry could control who had access to Archie and, more importantly, what they knew about him. Lady C's narrative continued to grow more intricate. She claimed that even the christening, which had been held privately, was part of the secrecy campaign. Royal christenings are usually public affairs, with photos released to the press and guests' names made public. Yet, for Archie, the entire event was shrouded in secrecy. The names of his godparents were kept confidential, the media was kept at arm's length, and even the guest list was never fully disclosed. According to Lady C, this was all part of the effort to hide the truth. She suggested that the godparents were likely insiders who knew of Archie's true origins and were sworn to secrecy as part of their role. Meanwhile, investigative journalists were not idle. Reports began to surface of attempts to uncover Archie's birth records, but those attempts were met with roadblocks at every turn. Legal barriers prevented public access to certain documents, and attempts to speak with medical staff were shut down with surprising efficiency. The deeper journalists dug, the more obstacles they encountered, adding further fuel to Lady C's claims of a widespread cover-up. According to some sources, journalists who attempted to investigate too deeply were contacted by lawyers representing the Sussexes, warning them to cease their inquiries or face legal action. The growing tension was palpable. Buckingham Palace, still holding its stance of silence, was reportedly under pressure to address the claims. Speculation grew that senior members of the royal family were deeply frustrated with the situation. According to unnamed sources, private meetings were held to discuss the potential fallout of Lady C's revelations. Advisors allegedly warned that if Lady C's claims were validated, it would not only tarnish Meghan and Harry's reputation but could also damage the monarchy's standing on a global scale. Meghan and Harry, for their part, continued their silence. While Lady C's allegations swirled around them, they carried on with public appearances, though noticeably more reserved and less frequent. In public, they appeared unbothered, but sources close to the couple suggested that behind closed doors, the stress was mounting. Friends of Meghan reportedly spoke out, defending her as a victim of relentless attacks and baseless accusations. They described Lady C as someone seeking attention and questioned her motives for making such wild claims. But Lady C was undeterred. In fact, the backlash only seemed to embolden her. She continued to speak out, promising that documents proving Archie's adoption would soon come to light. According to her, these documents were currently under legal review and would be released when the time was right. She hinted that whistleblowers were preparing to go public, people who had been silenced for too long and were now ready to reveal the truth. They can't hide him forever, Lady C stated confidently during a television interview. The truth is always stronger than the lie. As the weeks went on, the tension only grew. Royal watchers held their breath, waiting to see if Lady C would indeed produce the evidence she promised. Journalists continued to dig, despite threats of legal action. Social media remained ablaze with theories, debates, and speculations, each more dramatic than the last. And through it all, Buckingham Palace remained silent, watching the storm unfold without offering so much as a word of clarification or denial. Would Lady C's promised documents finally emerge? Would the truth about Archie Harrison's birth finally be revealed? Or would this scandal join the countless others that had plagued the monarchy over the years? One thing was certain, the world was watching, and the answers, whatever they might be, were destined to shake the very foundation of the royal family's carefully maintained image. As Lady Colin Campbell's explosive claims gained momentum, whispers of a deeper conspiracy began to emerge. The media, always hungry for the next big royal scandal, latched onto every word she uttered, dissecting her allegations and pushing for more evidence. According to Lady C, the secrecy surrounding Archie Harrison's birth was no mere coincidence, but part of a grander strategy to shield the truth from public scrutiny. She hinted at a network of insiders who had helped Meghan Markle and Prince Harry orchestrate what she called one of the most elaborate deceptions in modern royal history. The more Lady C spoke, the more questions arose about the legitimacy of Archie's birth. She claimed that Meghan's pregnancy had been nothing more than a well-executed charade, designed to give the appearance of a traditional royal birth while masking the reality of an adoption carried out with meticulous secrecy. Lady C described the operation as flawless in its execution, suggesting that even those within the royal family had been kept in the dark about the truth. According to her, only a handful of trusted aides and legal advisors knew the real story, and they had been sworn to silence under the threat of severe legal repercussions. To support her claims, Lady C pointed to the bizarre handling of Meghan's pregnancy and Archie's birth. From the very beginning, the narrative had been anything but typical. Unlike previous royal births, there were no public hospital photos, no eager crowds gathered outside, and no official timeline of labor or delivery. Meghan and Harry had announced that they would not be following royal tradition, opting instead for privacy. They claimed that this decision was made to protect their family from media intrusion, but Lady C argued otherwise. According to her, the secrecy was necessary to hide the truth of Archie's origins. Lady C further claimed that the Sussexes had enlisted the help of private legal firms and even medical professionals to ensure the secrecy of the adoption process. She alleged that the doctors involved in Archie's delivery were not typical royal physicians but private practitioners bound by ironclad non-disclosure agreements. According to Lady C, these agreements were designed to prevent any leaks that might expose the adoption, ensuring that not even a whisper of it would reach the press. She described how Meghan and Harry had gone to extraordinary lengths to secure their privacy during the birth, using private exits and decoy vehicles to mislead paparazzi and avoid unwanted attention. The secrecy surrounding Archie's christening added further weight to Lady C's claims. Traditionally, royal christenings are public affairs, with photographers capturing the event and the names of godparents released to the press. Yet, in Archie's case, everything was different. The christening was held in private, away from the public eye, with only a handful of guests allowed inside. Even the names of the godparents were withheld, a move that was widely criticized and viewed as a break from royal transparency. Lady C argued that this secrecy was intentional, designed to prevent anyone from questioning Archie's legitimacy or his place in the line of succession. The public's reaction was swift and divided. Supporters of Meghan and Harry dismissed Lady C's claims as nothing more than spiteful gossip, rooted in jealousy and a desire to undermine the Sussexes' growing influence. They pointed to Lady C's history of controversial statements, suggesting that she was simply trying to remain relevant in an ever-changing media landscape. However, critics of Meghan and Harry saw Lady C's allegations as confirmation of long-held suspicions. To them, the secrecy surrounding Archie's birth and christening had always seemed odd, and Lady C's claims fit neatly into their narrative of deception and manipulation. Royal commentators began to weigh in, dissecting every detail of Lady C's allegations. Some noted that the secrecy around Archie's birth was indeed unprecedented, while others suggested that Meghan and Harry's desire for privacy was justified, given the relentless media scrutiny they had faced. However, the lack of transparency continued to raise eyebrows. Questions were asked about why Archie's birth certificate was edited after it was first issued, with Meghan's name being changed from Rachel Meghan Markle to Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Some saw this as a simple clerical correction, while others, fueled by Lady C's allegations, speculated that it was part of a larger effort to obscure the truth. Journalists began digging deeper, attempting to unearth any documentation that might support Lady C's claims. Investigative reporters reached out to hospitals, legal firms, and private clinics in an attempt to trace Archie's birth records. Yet, every inquiry was met with silence or flat refusals. The legal barriers protecting the Sussexes' privacy were nearly impenetrable, leading many to wonder if Lady C's claims were rooted in truth. How, they asked, could such secrecy be maintained if there was nothing to hide? Lady C, never one to back down from controversy, promised that more revelations were coming. She hinted that insiders were ready to break their silence, that documents would soon be made public, and that the truth would shake the foundations of the royal family. According to her, Meghan and Harry's move to the United States was partly motivated by a desire to escape British jurisdiction, where royal births are more closely scrutinized. By moving to California, Lady C claimed, they were able to take advantage of legal protections that allowed them to keep Archie's records sealed indefinitely. Despite the swirling controversy, Buckingham Palace maintained its usual stance of silence. Historically, the royal family has adhered to a strict policy of never complain, never explain, preferring to weather scandals without public acknowledgement. But this time, the silence was different. It felt heavier, more conspicuous. To some, it was a sign that there was truth to Lady C's claims, a sign that the palace was struggling to contain a scandal that could rock the very foundations of the monarchy. Meghan and Harry, for their part, continued their public appearances, but noticeably avoided any mention of Lady C's allegations. Their social media accounts were eerily quiet on the topic, and their spokespersons declined all requests for comment. To their supporters, this silence was a sign of dignity and restraint, a refusal to engage with baseless rumors. To their critics, it was an admission of guilt, a strategy to avoid further scrutiny. Meanwhile, Lady C doubled down on her assertions, claiming that she had secured testimony from individuals who had first-hand knowledge of the adoption process. She described these individuals as insiders who had been part of the arrangements and who had witnessed the legal maneuvering required to keep Archie's origins hidden. According to Lady C, these insiders were prepared to go public with their stories, and she promised that the evidence they would present would be irrefutable. The anticipation grew with each passing day. Journalists prepared for what many believed would be the biggest royal scandal of the decade, while social media buzzed with speculation and conspiracy theories. Online forums dedicated to royal gossip lit up with activity, dissecting every aspect of Lady C's claims and analyzing old photographs of Meghan and Harry for clues. The world seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for the moment when Lady C would unveil her supposed evidence and either validate her claims or be exposed as a sensationalist seeking attention. And still, the palace remained silent, watching as the story grew bigger and more damaging with each passing day. For Meghan and Harry, the stakes could not have been higher. If Lady C's claims were proven true, it would not only shatter the narrative they had constructed but also call into question their integrity on a global scale. For the monarchy, the repercussions would be even more profound, raising questions about succession, legitimacy, and the very nature of royalty in the modern world. Would Lady C produce the documents she promised? Would the whistleblowers step forward and confirm her allegations? Or would this all fade into the ether of royal gossip, another scandal that never quite reached its boiling point? The world waited, and Lady C promised that the truth, whatever it was, would soon be known. Lady Colin Campbell's allegations had not just ignited a media firestorm, they had sparked a worldwide hunt for the truth. News outlets from London to New York were scrambling to get their hands on any shred of evidence that could either validate or debunk Lady C's claims. The stakes were impossibly high. If Lady C was right, it would mean that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry had carried out one of the most elaborate deceptions in recent royal history, an adoption hidden beneath layers of secrecy, shielded by ironclad legal protections and public relations mastery. If she was wrong, it would mark the latest in a series of vicious attacks on the Sussexes, part of a broader campaign to undermine their credibility since stepping away from royal duties. As journalists delved deeper into Lady C's allegations, they began to unearth a series of oddities that seemed to support her narrative. First, there was the question of Meghan's pregnancy itself. From the outset, it had been shrouded in mystery. Unlike her sister-in-law Kate Middleton, who had paraded proudly with her baby bump during each of her pregnancies, Meghan had remained mostly out of sight. When she did appear, her maternity wear was noticeably loose-fitting, obscuring any definitive look at her growing belly. Photographs that did surface were met with rampant speculation. Critics on social media picked apart the images, pointing out what they claimed were inconsistencies in the size and shape of her bump from. Lady C seized on these theories, arguing that the inconsistency was no mere trick of the camera, it was evidence of a staged pregnancy. But it wasn't just the photographs that drew suspicion. The timeline of Meghan's pregnancy raised eyebrows as well. While the palace had announced her due date as late spring, Archie was born on May 6th, just shy of what many had calculated as her projected delivery window. For most, it was a minor detail. Babies are rarely punctual, after all. But for Lady C, it was another puzzle piece. She suggested that the inconsistency pointed to the possibility of an adoption being finalized just before the public birth announcement, allowing the Sussexes to present Archie as their own biological child without the scrutiny of a hospital birth. Lady C also revisited the strange handling of Archie's birth certificate. The document was initially filed with Meghan's name listed as Rachel Meghan Markle. Then, in a surprising move, it was amended to replace her name with Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Buckingham Palace released a statement at the time, calling it a clerical error. But Lady C was not convinced. According to her, the amendment was part of the larger cover-up to obscure legal loopholes that could reveal the truth about Archie's birth. She claimed that the change was made to align with royal protocols, ensuring that if questions arose, the title rather than the individual could be referenced, adding yet another layer of protection against probing journalists. Meanwhile, attention also turned to Archie's christening, which had been unusually private. Traditionally, royal christenings are open to the press, with photographers capturing the ceremony and the godparents publicly announced. For Archie, none of this happened. The ceremony was held behind closed doors at Windsor Castle, and the names of his godparents were withheld from the public. Meghan and Harry stated that they wanted to protect the privacy of those involved, but to Lady C, it was another sign of concealment. She claimed that the godparents were handpicked for their loyalty and their silence, individuals who were deeply enmeshed in the Sussexes' inner circle and who would never betray the secrets they held. The palace's silence was deafening. Historically, the royal family has followed the strict policy of never complain, never explain, a strategy designed to weather scandals with dignity and poise. But this time, the silence seemed almost tactical. Journalists who approached Buckingham Palace for comment were met with polite refusals, while those who sought insight from palace aides found doors firmly closed. Lady C took this silence as validation of her claims, arguing that if the allegations were truly baseless, the palace would have swiftly denied them. Public speculation reached new heights when rumors began circulating about whistleblowers coming forward. According to Lady C, insiders who had been part of the adoption arrangement were prepared to speak out. She hinted that these individuals had been silenced by legal threats and non-disclosure agreements, but were now ready to reveal the truth. Lady C promised that documentation would soon emerge, documents that would confirm Archie Harrison's legal status as an adopted child and expose the layers of secrecy that had kept it hidden for so long. Journalists scrambled to verify Lady C's assertions, but the walls of confidentiality were formidable. Archie's medical records were sealed, his birth certificate was locked under British jurisdiction, And the hospital where he was born, Portland Hospital in London, refused to release any details about the delivery, citing patient privacy laws. Frustrated but undeterred, reporters turned their focus to California, where Meghan and Harry now resided. Adoption records in California are notoriously well protected, and attempts to access information through Freedom of Information requests were swiftly denied. The lack of transparency only added fuel to the fire. Lady C, sensing the momentum, doubled down on her claims. She appeared on talk shows, podcasts, and even international news outlets, repeating her allegations with unyielding confidence. According to her, the adoption had been facilitated through private legal channels that ensured total secrecy. She spoke of private courtrooms, sealed records, and offshore accounts that handled the financial aspects of the arrangement. Lady C insisted that the reason for Meghan's extreme privacy during pregnancy was rooted in necessity, not preference. Further adding to the speculation, Lady C described a network of influential figures who had allegedly helped facilitate the adoption. According to her, Meghan and Harry had been introduced to these powerful allies through Hollywood connections, individuals with the resources and legal expertise to orchestrate the process without leaving a trace. Lady C claimed that Meghan's ties to elite circles in Los Angeles had smoothed over the more complicated aspects of the adoption, ensuring that no one would ever question Archie's parentage. The world waited with bated breath for the documents Lady C promised would surface. She hinted that whistleblowers were preparing to come forward, claiming that their silence had been bought with money and threats, but that they were now ready to reveal the truth. According to Lady C, these whistleblowers included medical professionals, legal aides, and even royal staff who had been privy to the arrangements but were bound by ironclad non-disclosure agreements. Public opinion was sharply divided. Supporters of Meghan and Harry dismissed Lady C's claims as sensationalist nonsense, part of a long history of baseless accusations against the couple. But skeptics saw her allegations as a long-overdue revelation, proof of the lies they believed had been spun by the Sussexes since their departure from royal life. Social media was ablaze with speculation, and hashtags dedicated to uncovering the truth trended across platforms. Every appearance Meghan and Harry made was scrutinized, analyzed for signs of guilt or secrecy. Their silence only deepened the mystery. Lady C, meanwhile, was undeterred. She promised that the truth would soon be made public, that the documents would be irrefutable, and that the world would finally see the reality behind the curtain of royal privilege.